Hello everyone, it is Dark Symphony 777 with another tier list of Touhou Monster TV. So if you actually remember, I did not too long ago. I did a tier list of this game right here, but there is two caveats. I did the video on normal difficulty and didn't factor in the skills. And if you actually notice that I did a let's play of this game with Lunatic difficulty, and I had to use the skills. So I thought I'd make a second tier list based on how useful they are in Lunatics. And the tier list actually changed quite a lot. Some towers became better once you started using the skills. Other towers actually dropped in use in skill based on that as well. So I wanted to actually go. So the first thing I want to do before getting to the actual tier list is I want to show off the skills. So these are the skills. There are 4 skill trees. Yeah, the first skill tree, which is centered around the champion themselves. The second skill tree centered around Danmaku and blast base towers. The third is based off spells, and the last one is based off summons. So let me actually let me turn this on here, so you can hear me better. And let's actually just go over the skills as well as some other differences in between normal mode and Lunatic difficulty. So the first one for the champion, there's not much because most of this mainly just affects the champions. However, there are 2 that are worth noting. There is ammunition preparation, where for 2 star points you get more blue points in order to not only summon more towers but also get for more upgrades. So let me actually show real quick. Just here, if you actually notice, without the in this level I have 550. With the ability, instead of 550, I will get 660. So that's a 110 blue point increase, and this fluctuates between levels. The next one the other one we have is Psychic Summon, which actually decreases the cost of summoning a tower onto the field. It doesn't really seem like much because it's only really like on average a 7-8 point difference, but it does add up very quickly. Now we move on to the Danmaku Tower. At Danmaku Blast, we have Strange Force, a basic increase of how much damage they do. Limbo Vision, which just increases the range a Danmaku Tower actually can fire from. Earthshaker basically just makes their AoE attacks wider, or in the case of Oku, just makes her actually gives her more range, which is something unique to Oku. Accurate Shock. This basically just makes all Danmaku towers have a chance to deal critical hits. Yukari is really the only tower that's on average going to benefit from this, because she's the tower most likely to get critical shots because of how Yukari behaves. Fast loading, just same with Limbo Vision, just increases the Danmaku's speed in which they fire, the cooldown time before they fire. Nitori is not affected by this because the reload actually is not affected by fast loading. You have Physical Training, which actually decreases the cost of upgrading both Danmaku and blast-based towers, which is actually really useful. This basically ensures that you at least want to run a few of these types of towers, because as the game goes on, you're going to rely more and more on summon and spell-based towers because they're just going to be more useful more times. But yeah, that's it. And then also we got Chain Reaction and Giant Hunter. Giant Hunter just basically makes Damaku Towers do more damage against giant enemies. Blast Tower and Chain Reaction just deals more damage against regular enemies. Very useful to have. Let's put them on. For the spells, we have Concentrated. Same thing as Limbo Vision. Increases all spell towers' range. Mogul Nemesis. This actually does more damage to enemies that do not have spell resistance or spell armor. Spell Sublimation. This basically just gives everyone the effect of that Cerno has. Basically, Cerno's effect is that every shot she lands on an enemy, it slows the enemy down. This basically makes every single tower have a chance to do that. Mana Erosion. This basically has the chance of ignoring spell resistance, so you can have something like a Soul, which has 3 points of magical armor on it, and this has a chance of making them just make it 0 and do a lot of damage. It doesn't happen often, but it can happen. Mana Storm, which actually decreases the time between shots done by any spell towers. Not only that, but if a spell tower has like a certain ability, like say Letty Right Rock's white mana, it actually increases the chance of them actually being able to use it. Say they would like Cerno doing the perfect the Icicle Freeze. Yokai Mage, this basically makes the first spell tower you get to level 4, you can get it to level 5 with no cost. Actually really powerful. And then finally, Sage's Boundary, which actually every time you place a spell tower on any spring, whether it be a speed spring, a range spring, an attack power range, just any spring, all of that same tower gets a damage bonus, and that applies to all towers. So if you put like a Cerno on a tower and you place another Cerno somewhere else, that Cerno will get that same boost as the one on the tower. As long as that Cerno's on that spring, it'll work. And then finally, we have the summons. You have Indestructible. This basically makes summon units more bulky. Kamikaze, if a summon unit dies, they basically cause a little explosion and can actually do some damage. Fully Armed increases the defense of any summon unit. Battle Instinct increases the damage for all summon units. Battle Assemblage. This is actually interesting because its ability is it's supposed to decrease the amount of times it takes for any summon to be revived. So basically, any tower except for Komachi, I believe. So it's supposed to affect Alice, Kaguya, Seiga, Ron, because Chen is classified as a summon in this game. Chen is classified and is a summon. And finally, Kind. I believe Kind counts. I think Kind's like a weird gray area. However, this ability doesn't work. And you can actually test it out yourself. The easiest way to test it out, take like a stopwatch, either on your phone or an actual stopwatch. Go anywhere with a Kaguya unit. Time the amount it takes for her to summon a rabbit with battle assemblage, and then time how long it'll take her to summon a rabbit after battle assemblage. Kaguya has a cooldown time of 25 seconds. With battle assemblage on the field, it's literally 25 seconds. It's bugged. So for some reason, this specific ability does not work. I don't know why that was done as an oversight, but it is. Yokai Hunting, also. So this is actually more of an RNG-based ability. Basically, every time an enemy dies, they have a chance to drop blue points. With this ability, if a summon unit actually kills a enemy, minus Seiga, I believe, because of how Seiga works, I literally don't think she can actually do the blue points. They have a chance to drop more blue points for you. but it has to be a summon that kills you. Finally, you have Marchosijal. Basically, if a summon dies, then again a little summon doll to basically stall time for the revives to happen. And then finally, Overwhelming, which is probably the single best ability in the game, next to Yokai Mage, because getting a free level 5 tower is just really good. So what this ability does is every time you get a summon tower, any summon tower except for Ron, because no, except so any Alice, Kaguya, and Seiya till level 5, all summon units gain a 5% damage increase. And the neat thing about this ability is this is the only ability in the game that actually stacks. So for every time you get a summon tower to level 5, all summon units gets a additional 5% increase. So it'll go from 5% to 10% to 15%. It'll constantly increase as you get more and more summon units to level 5. And that actually allows summon units to actually be able to keep up with the rest of the towers and makes a lot of use. So the other thing we're going to do is the main difference between normal and lunatic. So our normal, let's actually look at a Kadama. This is the here. So on normal, a Kadama has 25 points of health. On lunatic, a Kadama has 35 health. You're thinking, oh, it's only 10% health. It's only a 10-point health difference. Until you get to until you actually get to higher levels, then you get really, really crazy stuff like the first boss. On normal, the unknown dodge on lunatic the dodge is 24. On normal, the dodge is only 16. So it gains 8,000 points of health. And this actually carries over for every single enemy. So everything is significantly more bulky, and you need to have more time to be able to plan everything out. You need to have towers that work together. You have to have towers that cover as much ground as possible and cover as many options as you can. And this tier list is actually going to go over that. Unlike the original tier list, which covered normal difficulty without the use of skill towers. So, let's see. Luckily, I did actually make the tier list ahead of time, so I know specifically where to put them. We're going to start with Ryzen. Let's start with the bunny. Ryzen's still an A tier. She's still a solid all-around tower. Let's see. Price, she's 70 points. She's the cheapest tower. She's pretty cheap. A lot of the really better towers are going to be set around 70 points. I think that's actually for the most part. Yeah, the really weaker towers are going to be 70, but with psychic summoning, she becomes 63 points. That's going to be a lot of these towers are going to be like 70 on average. Without the damage increase, her damage output is level 1, 7, level 12, 13, level 3, 22, level 4, 26, 52 if she gets both shots in, and level 5 is 30 if you manage, or 90 damage if she hits all three and the enemy with all 3 shots. That's without defense, and we're taking into account no defense, stuff like that. Upgrade, it's 100, 150, 225, and 275. She's a pretty cheap tower. That's another thing. But again, what you're mainly going to be using Ryzen for is the fact that she has a lot of range. Her range is on level 1 and 2, she has a 4-point range, but in level 3 to 5, she has a 5-point range, which makes her really, really good at sniping long enemies, long distances, before other towers are able to get their hands on it. Most towers. That's basically the benefit of Ryson. She has a lot of ground. She has decent enough speed. His speed's only 4 out of 5, so it's pretty decent. Uh, she covers a lot of options. Her only real weakness is any enemy with physical defense. And trust me, enemies with physical defense, they're gonna be your toughest, your really toughest trouble. More enemies with magical defense, because you're more likely gonna be relying on the physical stuff. Just when I say. She doesn't have any really unique gimmicks to undermine how bad she might be. She only has one real weakness. She has a lot of strengths. She, unlike normal difficulty and like the previous tier list, she does actually have competition with Notori. When you actually start investing into the Maku skills, Notori actually becomes an option to use. I don't think Notori is as good as Ryson. They're really two sides of the same coin. If Ryson's not going to work, then you might as well just use Notori. Notori is going to work for the options that Ryson cannot work, namely faster enemies, because faster enemies are going to be able to outrun Ryson before she has a chance to take them out. But she's still ideal for any flying enemies. She's still ideal for any enemies that you just want to keep at bay at the beginning. Like you know where the choke points are, you know where the summons are, and she's really useful for those types of situations. Not S tier, but I think she still holds herself up pretty well. Oh, Alice. Let's talk about Alice. First off, I didn't even know that her actual name is Alice Margatroyd. I actually, for the longest time, thought her name was actually Alice Matrigold. Because that just rings. I looked at the name, my mind just turned it into Matrigold for some reason. In the previous tier list, I said Alice was actually the weakest summon tower in the game because she simply didn't have much in the way to differentiate herself from other summon towers. Ron had the coverage. Kaguya had the remote ones, and Sega could just infinitely wall. Like there was no justification to have Alice in those types without investing into the skill tree, because there just wasn't much to her. The dolls were too frail. They just weren't really strong enough to deal with most things, and there wasn't really any reason to worth investing, because the fact that all she does is heal the towers. However, once you invest summon skills, she immediately jumps to S tier. She goes from being the worst summon tower to easily the best. Not counting Ran. Oh yeah, spoiler alert, Ran's still the best tower in the game. No question, Ran is still the best. You know, might as well just do might as well put them here. yeah, these two the Yakumos are still the best towers in the game. I'm not even gonna hide that. But Alice jumps to easily the third best tower in the game. Honestly, I will say this: if not for battle assemblage being glitched, she would actually overtake Yukari. There's just nothing. Like only, but she would not tough them Fox, because more than likely Chen would probably benefit from battle assemblage too, because Chen's reload is 20 seconds. Alice's reload is 12 seconds. Alice is actually pretty useful without the dolls, while Ron can still rack up a lot of damage even without Chen. So Alice is still still 70. Her upgrades are 100, 150, 220, and 280. That's pretty cheap. That's slightly more expensive than Ryson, but you have to take into account that Ryson does benefit from the ability to make the upgrades cheaper for her, so that actually does add up. But the reason Alice becomes up here is the fact that Alice's biggest weakness in the previous tier list, i.e. the fact that all she does is heal the dolls, become her biggest strength here, because now you're able to use the skill to make the dolls more bulky. You can make the dolls explode. You can increase their physical defense. You basically have overwhelming. I mean, there's a reason why. Look at this. Shanghai doll. Even the game's telling you, it's like, oh yeah, Alice is going to benefit the most from those abilities. And she does. And the healing ability, especially since as you level her up, the time it takes to heal the dolls actually shortens. And then not only that, but she can also heal other summon units. So if she's near a Kaguya, or not so much a Kaguya, but if she's near Ran, she can heal Chen, which makes Chen even more bulky. And Chen is already pretty damn bulky. And that's not even taking account the skills. Chen gets bulkier with the skills. At level 4s and 5s, she gains range units. That way she has range options to deal with flying enemies. She has all these skills that basically shore up as much of the problems that the dolls have as possible. That makes them pretty dang hard to deal with. That makes them so monstrously difficult to break through that only giant enemies can reliably do that. And even then, you're more likely going to have other towers just back up Alice. So while the giant enemies are just kind of one-shotting that Shanghai dolls, you have a bunch of other towers that are just wailing on them and just get rid of it, and then Alice 3 summons the Shanghai dolls. It makes you're using Alice to block. You're using Alice as a choke point to just basically infinitely block choke points as best she can. And she gets really good at the job. Once you start investing in the summon skills, she becomes very, very indisposable. She just simply does. And there's nothing to do that. It's not even taking, like, if you take the dolls into account, at most each doll has gets 40 attack damage. And then with HP, with the benefit of increasing HP, they get to near 400 health. And we're not even taking into account overwhelming, because overwhelming is way too hard to quantify. But yeah, Alice, if you're going to play this game on Lunatic, you need to have Alice. Sure, you need to actually invest into the skills to make the most out of Alice, but once you do, she's not going anywhere. You're not switching her out for Kaguya, except for maybe 1 or 2 levels. And you're definitely not switching out for Sega. Sega's probably the worst tower in this summon tower in the game, once you take into account the skills. But yeah, Alice. What else will do? Honestly, Ron and Yukari are pretty much self-explanatory. Yukari, you're using Yukari for the support, for the ability to gap enemies farther back. And on level 5, you can summon a Tran to push them back even farther. She basically has the same role as Alice. She does fulfill it in a different way. She does have different strengths. She can't but different weaknesses as well. Unlike Alice, once you get past Yukari can't do much of anything, while Alice can probably just actually walls off the area, so that way you have to actually get to the dolls in order to get past them. While with Yukari, once you leave her field of view, she can't do anything about it. She can't. They both have weaknesses to bulky enemies. They both have the only reason you want to use Yukari over Alice right now is because of the simple fact that Yukari is more consistent, because of the simple fact that once you get rid of the dolls, Alice is just sitting there waiting for the dolls to come back. Again, if if battle assemblage was actually working, like actually working, it'd be this, which kind of shows you the fact that the one flaw Alice has is the fact that the revive for the dolls is so slow, and in a tower defense game, every single second counts. The more time you're able to ring, the less time you're able to squeeze out as much you can juice is going to be better. And 12 seconds is just way too fast to keep up with Yukari's ability to honestly be the only tower to reliably use crits, the only tower to have a ramp up system, the only tower to basically force the enemy's pack, including giant enemies. And she also has ridiculous range. And Ron is Ron. Like I said, as much as I could in the first tier list. She covers both physical and magical. A neat thing to note is she's the only tower in the game that benefits from two different skill trees. So she actually benefits from spells and summon skills, although the summon skills go towards Chen. But the fact that she still benefits from that is just makes her even more crazy. The moment you get Ron, you're just gonna spam her everywhere. There's just nothing. Even like her greatest weakness, which would be her range, is completely negated by the fact that the lightning changed other enemies, which means she can get, which means her range is only on paper. In practicality, she has ridiculous range because she can just do whatever she wants. She can, of course, force the aggro. You can make Chen more bulky. You can make Chen more damaging. There's just a lot, and just make Chen way more harder to deal with. And Ron way more harder to counter. But yeah, that's them. I don't have much to say about them. Cirno. Cirno's B tier. She's 80 points, 72 with the ability. Let me get her upgrade. Her upgrades are 110, 175, 225, 275. She is actually pretty good once you get it to level 5, because like I said in the previous video, she has that passive where she slows down any enemies that get near her. And that's pretty much it. The only reason she's not higher is, of course, you have sublimation, which basically turns her entire every single spell tower like Ron, like Letty, like Yuyuko, like Marissa, to gain the same ability as Cirno. Yes, that's how it is. That's how it is. There's also the fact that as the game goes on, Cirno's just gonna be because of the fact that you have sublimation. You're just gonna she's gonna fall off because you have other towers that are just gonna do the same thing. Just you have it's a chance, but like come on, you can't really. You're expecting Cirno to still be used when every tower can just gain the one thing she has going for her. Nah. She's good in the mid game, but she drops off pretty quickly. You're just not gonna use her the longer the game goes because you're just gonna find better options. Nothing more to say about that. Tenchi, D tier. Same problem as last time. She's just in the shadow of Oku. Oku's still the best blast tower. Even when you take into account the skills, Oku's just gonna do much more. Her price is 125. What her upgrades are 150, 225, 275, and 375. And then it actually drops substantially with the ability on. It goes 142, 214, 261, and 356. That's kind of like that's also a big problem with blast towers. They are by far not only the weakest towers, they're also the most expensive. So you have to put in like the extra effort to make them work. Meanwhile, you can just slap an Oku in like a choke point, and it's like have fun. Why use like 2 or 3 Tenchis when you just use one Oku and do the same job? That's just how it is. Guys, here it is. Yamame. Oh. So, I actually want to amend something for Yamame real quick. In the previous tier list, I put her at the bottom of D tier, mainly because I didn't know how she worked. Because I know she did poison damage and she ignored armor. That's all I really knew. However, I didn't know how much damage she could rack. She can rack up some crazy damage. And in the previous the tier list, I did say we don't have a tower that has like a dedicated way to deal with giant enemies. Yomame is your giant killer. She's going at the top of B tier. She puts ludicrous amounts of damage. Let me put this in perspective. If you at max health, her regular shots do 11 damage, and that's without counting the poison. With the poison, she can eat one poison can rack up 500 points of damage in a couple seconds. That is quite honestly frightening, and the fact that the poison damage pierces armor makes it even better. The reason why she's not in any higher, because the person who commented is Yamame deserves to be in A tier, and I'm actually going to amend that in the previous tier list. I'm going to amend Yamame to like bottom of A tier, but there's top of B tier, bottom of A tier in that tier list. In this one, she's very clearly top of B tier. She has a very solid niche of, if you know a map is going to have a bunch of giant enemies, you're going to use her. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You're using her. However, she does have some flaws. First flaw is she is the only tower that does not benefit. Well, she's one of two towers that doesn't benefit from their respective skills. The other one being Letty, because both of these two towers deal with mainly do their damage through status effects, which is fine. However, there's also the fact that one, Trappers is still completely garbage. It's still monstrously bad because you have much better options. You have Yukari, you have Alice, you have Ron, you have Cerno, who's technically a better option, and she's low below Yamame, which shows you how badly Trappers is his ability. If it was reworked that if on level 4 it slows enemies, but on level 5 it just freezes enemies, like it's like a mobile AoE and it freezes enemies, that would actually be pretty good. Because then it would allow the poison to do its work even more. And also have a chance to actually do her other main weakness, being that she can't kill. Her damage does so little damage, and the fact that the poison cannot kill because of balancing reasons, that you cannot realistically use her. And her final weakness is the fact that you need to get her to level 5. She does pitiful, even to giant enemies, she does no damage to giant enemies until level 5. Like, okay, so with the giant killer equipped with poison, her level 1 does 25, level 2, 51, level 3, 98, level 4, 190, and level 5, of course, 100, because, again, the poison actually doesn't scale with any of the Damaku. It's the shot itself, the poison itself, it's a status effect. There's also the fact that some enemies are immune to status effects, like Kayuko. She has the shield. I believe she's immune. I never tested that, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think anything that has a shield actually becomes immune to status effects. I know, like the Pelican equip, the ships, and some of the other enemies in the game, they're completely immune to it. I know Byakurin is completely immune to poison. I actually tested that one on her. Completely immune. You need to actually stall her. You actually need to stall that ability out, that shield out, in order to start damaging her. She doesn't do enough to push her into A tier. But yeah, again, if you're having trouble with a bunch of giant enemies, you just plop them on me somewhere in there. Kogasa. Where did I put Kogasa? Oh yeah. Kogasa's B tier. Below Sterno. Kogasa is very niche. She doesn't really. It's kind of like the handicap with special towers is they don't benefit from. They literally only benefit from psychic summoning. Um, she has a niche. She just spooks the enemies away. Yukari is just better. The only reason you want to use Kogasa just has a higher base damage than Yukari. Even when you account for the ramp up, Kogasa just does more damage. It's just you want to use something else. Ron, I do want to point out that her price is 100 points on ability. It drops to 90. Upgrades, it's 150, 200, 280, and 350. So, it's well worth the investment for her. Oku. Oku's S tier. Again, you're just gonna use any. She's the only blast star you're gonna use. Insanely high damage. The fact that on level 5 she gains the radiation, and a fun fact is the radiation actually pierces armor as well. You can literally put her on anything, and the radiation is just gonna chew through the armor as well. That's another reason why Yamame is kind of useless, because you might as well just put Tusho right there too, and get her level 5. The radiation is just gonna chew through giant enemies, and along with the sun is gonna stun them as well. You're not gonna use Oku in that regard, but it is an option. But again, if there's a big crowd of enemies coming, you slap Oku down. You put the chain reaction that does even more damage. She's just gonna one shot anything, 1 or 2 shot anything that doesn't have physical armor on it. Damage is king. I'm dead serious with chain reaction on. She does 164 damage plus stun on any tower on any neutral enemy. That is insane. And the fact that once you get to level 5, despite it only being 1/1, the AoE thing can actually increase her range, allowing her to cover more ground. She's just immensely good. You pair her up with Alice. I didn't really show it that much in the Let's Play, but again, Oku and Alice is a good combo. Just use it. Marissa. Marissa D tier. Where is she? No, C tier. The problem is the same problems I had in the previous tier. The fact that, she can put up a lot of damage. If you put her on a spring and she managed to hit every single shot, she can do literally 500 damage. The only reason is that requires specific maps to work on. C is going to be like the niche tier where it's going to be very map specific. Some maps she's going to be useful on. Some maps she's just going to be complete dog shit. And the fact, however, I will say this: if there is a level with a speed spring that increases, put Marissa on it. That actually makes Marissa quite literally the most powerful tower in the game. If you put her on a spring, if you put her on a speed spring, because then you're not even gonna have time. She's not even gonna have a reload time. She's just gonna continuously spam the Master Sparks. It's quite frankly crazy how fast it goes. I won't share that. I gotta have the screen on for one specific tower. Nitori. Nitori is actually a B tier. Nitori's going right below Yamame. Nitori actually becomes an option with Raisa once you invest in the skills. I will say her reload is actually... She has a reload of 1.5 seconds. It's not a lot, but the fact that she automatically reloads every time she kills an enemy, that can actually screw her over, which is why she's not an A tier. is just the reload just massively kills her. If it automatically reloads, or like if it automatically reload on kill, that would make her useful. But the fact that she automatically has to reload automatically every time she kills any enemy just makes her way too unreliable to use, even with the skills. She doesn't benefit from fast reloading because the reload is a separate mechanic for some reason. Don't know why. However, for the maps you can't, Ryson's not going to be going on, you're going to use Notori. It's just, Notori's good, Ryson's better. There's also the fact that Notori doesn't really benefit from range shenanigans. Range's not as good. That's it. Yuka. Yeah. Yuka. Right here. She has more benefit. She does. You do benefit more from her because because of the extra health, because of the extra bullet points you can summon, and the fact that her shots can stun. All of her shots can do 6 damage times 12, so that equals up to 72 damage if all flowers hit. And all of them have a chance to stun, so you can easily you can stun lock an enemy. Similar to Yamame, you're gonna use her to kind of like stall to weaken giants and stall them because I think they can be stunned too. But it's good. She's not great because it's also the fact that let's see, she's 140 points to summon, 126 if you have the ability, and she goes 160, 180, 202. I think she's quite possibly the cheapest tower in the game. The problem is she doesn't really offer anything besides having to have to wait to you have to actually play the long game to actually make use of her, and the fact that you need the space to use her. She's not going to be useful on every map, but the map she is useful on, she works. She works well. Kaguya, A tier. So her price is 110. Her upgrades are 140, 190, 280, and 320. She is the most expensive of the summon towers. She is. And let's get their biggest strength out of the way. The mysterious objects. She can throw them immediately at any flying enemies. It's the only item in the game that only attacks flying enemies, which is a big boon. The fact that she has the longest wait time of any summon revival in the game, except for Kine. Kine is longer, but Kine is kind of a special, unique situation because you actually don't want Kine to be a summon. Kaguya is good. Like the rabbits with the ability at max health, they have less than 300 health. They're super. They are not exactly the bulkiest thing. The Shanghai dolls are more bulky, but the fact that they can actually stack, meaning if you have a summon and they're able to stall enough, she can just keep resummoning them. The long wait is pretty much her only big weakness. She does on level 5. She does summon Mochi Rabbit team, and their shots actually slow the enemy. Which, oh look, more reason not to use Cerno. So why would you use Alice? Because Kaguya is unreliable. Again, this comes down to the fact that more complicated maps with more complicated routes are just going to confuse the rabbits and they're not going to go the way you want them to go, which could eventually screw over you, which is why she's not S tier. I will say that. Sega. Where'd the holy shit? Oh yeah. Sega, bottom of C tier. She's just not useful. The fact that she needs to rely on RNG to get the most out of her She needs to poison. She needs to corrupt an enemy and by infesting them, and then when they die, they become another Yoshika. However, that is so reliant on RNG that it just makes Sega just massively unreliable. Don't bother. Don't bother with her. Use Kaguya. Use Alice. Use Ron. Use Kine. Don't bother using her. Yukari. I will say that Yukari is 110. Her upgrades with the Damaku, because she does benefit from the cheaper Damaku one, is 124, 200, 294, 370. She is very expensive. But she is very worth it. Alice is basically just a cheaper option. That's another thing Alice has going for her. She's just cheaper overall than Yukari. But yeah, that's it. Okay, so what is... yes, Yuyuko. Here you go. Final B tier. She's actually... she is the most expensive of the towers at 150, and it drops to 135. Oku's kind of more... is as expensive, but Yuyuko is really, really expensive to upgrade. 175, 250, 325, and massive 450. And I'm like, Oku, you can't lower that. Oh, that's so painful. Oh, I made myself sad. She does have really massive damage, and her level 5 ability, which allows to do a lot of damage on a bigger scale. Granted, you might as well use Marissa, but enemies can actually dodge. But the thing is, the reason why Yukiko's higher than Marissa is that Yukiko's able to fit on most maps. You can't use Marissa on every map. You can use Yukiko on every map. But she's just undone in the practicality department for everything else because she just doesn't do enough on the utility. She's really, really powerful. She's basically a spell version of Oku, but come on, Oku just way more damage. She's just gonna use Oku more of the time. And the fact that you can use Sage Mode to cheapen her level 5 upgrade. It's not enough. Really not. Shiki. I will note that Shiki is one of only 2 towers that can automatically do crits. However, her crits are actually 4 times instead of 2 times like normal time. So, like if Yuyuko had that ability, instead of doing 10 damage, it would probably do 20 damage. I still haven't figured out how the execution ability worked. She's very slow. She hits like a truck. The problem is she doesn't have any utility. Yeah. She just doesn't do much outside of just hit hard. But you have hit hard and hit a lot of enemies at once, and you have hit hard but has lots of range. What does Shiki have? She has lots of range too, but she's slow as molasses. Her speed is 2, and the automatic chance to crit is RNG, and the execution is RNG. Ryzen's just more reliable. And then we have Komachi. Okay, so I wanted to save Komachi. We're actually going to save Komachi last because there is a specific problem with Komachi that I have to actually talk about, and I want to save her for last. So let's just actually move on to the DLC towers. First up is Daiyo Yusei. Daiyo Yusei is S tier. She is by far the weakest S tier. You're only going to use. She does have a lot of use. Her damage can automatically become AoEs randomly. She can give you more green points. So depending on if you're going to be relying more on your champion using more, she can help you, and the fact her level 5, and she becomes an automatic passive speed spring for all of your towers, just makes her invaluable. Granted, you have to actually have her in range. That's actually how it works. It's like if she's inside, if another tower is inside the area where she can attack, she can use that area to influence towers. So to kind of balance her out. But it's really really useful if you pair her with like Alice because guess what? Speed Springs actually speeds up the summons. At least I believe so. But use her with Ron, put her near Oku, and it makes her attacks go much faster. She's good as she is. Don't see anything wrong with her. Letty, D tier. So here's the problem with Letty. Professor Cerno exists. So Letty's whole gimmick is Frostbite. Basically, if she freezes an enemy and then attacks it, it pierces armor and does a shit ton of damage. But then why use that when you have Professor Cerno, who got reworked to having Frostbite as well? You might as well just use Professor Cerno because you're going to have an extra slot to put up other towers. You can use the ability. You can pick and choose when to use the ability on stuff that you want to. The fact that it's more reliable to pierce enemies with magical defense because you're the one doing it. So she becomes really Cerno. Just don't use Letty because if you're going to use Letty, why aren't you using Professor Cerno? Cerno's just going to be more reliable on getting that frostbite damage 9 times out of 10. It's just crazy. Show worst tower in the game. Let me put this in perspective. Show is the most expensive tower to upgrade. 140 to summon. Okay, so cheaper than Oku. 160 the first upgrade. 240, 360, and then 500. That is the most expensive upgrade in the game. And what do you get? You have a tower that has an RNG-based attack mechanic where she might sometimes do more damage by summoning more balls. The balls can miss. Her range is pathetic. She has a 3%. She has a 3-point range and a 2-point speed. Even with chain to do more damage to small enemies, it only goes up to 44 damage. Why? And on level 5, it's so rare to get a blue star that I still haven't figured out how to get her to summon a spring. That's how rare it is. Hell, I'm actually starting to believe that's actually glitched as well. Oh, how you know that she physically cannot summon a spring. The blue star can be good, or you can just use kind to passively upgrade them for free. And you won't even have to wait for a star. She can just do it whenever she wants to. Yeah, I thought so. Miko, C tier. Oh, Miko suffers from everything in here. Too situational for her own good. On normal, she's really really powerful because she can just do a dummy thick amount of damage. Yeah, of course. However, the fact you have to rely on summoning multiples of her really makes her suffer. She is pretty cheap. Where is she? She's 80. She's 80 for a DLC. I think that she's actually the cheapest. No, I think she's the cheapest along with Kine for the cheapest tower. Her upgrades are 120, 120, 180, 240, 300. That's really, really, quite frankly, cheap for a tower for this kind of gimmick. Yeah. However, the flaws become apparent once you realize you need to only use her. Yeah, if you use like 2 or 3, yeah, At level 1, I even tested how much damage ramp up each Miko offers. So like you have each Miko at level 1 offers 18 damage. Each Miko at level 2 offers 36. Level 3, 59. At level 4, 192. And level 5, provided you have her ultra damage buff in and they're close enough that they kind of buff each other, 202 damage. That's quite frankly a lot. But the fact that one, she's very situational. You have to summon a bunch of her. Um, and the fact that you could leave yourself vulnerable, that any fast enemies, they just can't do anything. Because guess what? Her speed is just 3 and 3. Not the best. She is great as a gimmick tower. I think she's actually kind of the funnest gimmick tower to mess around with. But on a practical level, she cannot make up for it because just how much effort you have to put in to make her work. The reason I put her in that one level is because that's probably the only level that on Lunatic you'd probably be able to make it work because of just how the game that levels works. And even then, I still had to put a Maritza on the side which kind of goes to show you how badly it might mess up on. Again, neat gimmick on lower difficulties. You can have a lot of fun with her, but on Lunatic, she's not worth the effort. Iron, A tier. Iron is good. She can attack multiple. Enemies at once with tracking arrows. 120. I think next to Show, she is the most expensive. She has a lot of use. She has the secret stock, which inflict either poison, decrease armor, freeze them, or stun them. You can't really tell what she's going to use because all of them are like a white bottle. And with the attack, she's not really that powerful at most. With the ability, she only does like 70 damage. 88 if she's attacking an enemy. She is useful. She's very niche, but if you want to have fun and mess around with her, she's a good solid option. The fact that she can attack multiple enemies is a plus. So if you put her in the crowd, she can just start sniping them. That's fine. And Kine is S tier. Yeah, she's a special tower, but one. And yes, she doesn't benefit from summon towers, but one, I found out she can actually level up. It's just a passive thing, and the level up the show that she's leveling up a tower is the same as her normal attack. So you don't even realize you might have leveled up she might have leveled up a tower or not, especially if you take your eyes off her. But she can save you a lot more money, way more reliable than Show. She's actually really cheap. She's actually the cheapest DLC tower. 80 to buy. Upgrade is 100, 120, 140, and then 360. That is really goddamn cheap. And the fact that as you level her up, she actually lowers armor even more. So why use Yamame? And that's another reason. Why use Yamame when you have Kine? Who Yamame has to hit the enemy with a poison, where Kine can just hit enemy with poison, get rid of all their armor, and so now you have like that big bulk enemy that you can't deal with. Oh, now it's just vulnerable to everything around you, and everything will just take it out. And not even taking into account the Hakutaku, which is honestly her worst part, because Hakutaku, you don't want her in Hakutaku because all she really does is provide just an emergency wall. It can work on occasion, but you'd rather just have her not in that form, because you'd rather have her be lowering the defense of anything she comes across and getting rid of and passively leveling up enemy towers. Yeah, you're just gonna use her. Okay, let's get to third. because this is actually important. Because if you actually go to the discussion page on the Steam page for this game, I actually pointed it out. I need to actually, but I wanted to show it. I want to actually show proof. So I need to actually how to tab Komachi. Okay, I need to figure out how to. How do I? Okay. Okay. So. Okay. I need to actually. How do I? How? Oh my god! I do not know how to pause. No. Nope. No. Shift pause. No. Backface. Nope. Nope. And delete. Oh my. This is what. Shift. Tab. Oh, there. No. F. No. E. U. R. Did not want that. Did not want that. Did not want that. Okay, so I need to figure out. There. Okay, so. Let's start. Okay. Oh, I do have the thing equipped. Okay. So, the Komachi. Okay. So, let me get rid of this. Okay. So, and this is something I found out doing all this research, doing all this paperwork. And I did not notice it because I always found it weird that Komachi has health, has armor, has a reload time, but she doesn't act like an enemy. You actually just saw it right there with her not being able to pull an enemy. So when I went to walk up to her to, to write down everything, I noticed something. Do you see it? Do you see that black dot on her? That is supposed to be her health bar. Komachi is literally fucking bugged. No wonder she doesn't work the way she does. She's glitched out. She can't aggro. She literally cannot aggro the enemies. Despite the fact she has, like I said, she has armor. You can see that right there. She has armor right there at the bottom. She has a reload. She has health. And yet, she cannot. She behaves so awkwardly. Like, yeah. Yeah, it's just so. It's weird that I don't know. I literally think it's an oversight. You can, I'm leaving back, and that makes Komachi hard to rate because, okay, say Komachi actually worked as intended. Well, first off, she more than likely would benefit. She'd be like Ran, and the fact that she would benefit from two towers. Like, she would benefit from the blast skills, and also from the summon skill, because she technically behaves like a summon. I don't know if it'd be like that, because Kain doesn't work like that. She does technically work like a summon when she turns into her Hakutaku form, but she's not a summon. But I have to unfortunately put Komachi in D tier because of the simple fact that she's glitched. And also, hilariously, that actually shows how bad Sho is, because Sho is still technically worse than an actual glitched character, which shows how literally useless Sho is as a tower. Yeah, Komachi should be working. She should be acting as aggro, but she doesn't. She shouldn't be able to work on Magio Springs, but she does. Oh, no, wrong one. Wrong one. But yeah, she does. Despite the fact it literally says in her bio, will not be affected by Magic Spring. This is the Magic Spring. Unless they're talking specifically about the purple springs. Transfer from. Yeah, it's like these are Magic Spring. She shouldn't be. These shouldn't be working for her. Actually, it shouldn't be working for her. And this is something I think they need to fix before saying they call it a day on the game. So because it kind of feels bad because she does have the potential to be good. Because if she did work the way it's intended, she'd probably be an A here, probably above Ryson. But as it stands right now, she's right here. She just cannot work. She's just bugged. I don't know. I don't know why she's like that. But yeah, that is the tier list for the second tier list for Touhou Monster TD, the Lunatic tier list. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.